Let's get this straight from the jump. Atlanta only had 5 picks in the 2025 NFL Draft. Just 5. But those 5 might end up telling one of the most efficient and impactful draft stories in franchise history. This wasn't a case of casting a wide net. This was a scalpel job, precise, intentional, and built on conviction. And now, weeks removed from the draft, we've got a new data point to support that belief. Something tangible. Something that elevates the Falcons draft from quietly solid to sneaky exceptional. The misleading metric. Everyone sharing Pro Football Focus recently ranked all 32 NFL draft classes based on one stat: total college snaps played by their draftees. It's a clever angle at first glance. Experience matters after all. The more a player has seen the field, the more they've been tested. So it's no surprise that Seattle came in at number 1. Their rookies combined for nearly 23,000 snaps on offense and defense. The Falcons? Sitting down at 29th. Seems bad, right? But here's the problem. Volume doesn't tell the whole story. The list basically rewards teams that made more picks. If one team drafts 11 guys and another drafts 5, guess which one racks up more total snaps? It's not rocket science, it's basic math. Fixing the formula. So let's adjust the lens. What happens if we measure quality of experience instead of sheer quantity? Simple. Take the average college snaps per player for each draft class. That changes everything. Atlanta, with its modest 5-man class, vaults all the way up to 13th overall. Suddenly, you're looking at a top-half draft class when it comes to seasoned, ready-now talent. That's not just impressive, it's telling. No age gimmicks, just real football players. Look around the league and you'll see some teams inflated their draft resume with career-long college players, guys who were essentially NCAA mainstays. Take Cam Ward or Tyler Shue, both of whom stretched their eligibility like taffy. Shue, remember, once backed up Justin Herbert, and Herbert's been in the league for years, but Atlanta didn't play that game. They didn't stuff the ballot box with sixth-year seniors or players who logged 60-plus college games. Jalen Walker, 3 years at Georgia. James Pierce, 3 years at Tennessee. Xavier Watts, 5 years at Notre Dame, but only 2 games his freshman year before redshirting. Billy Bowman, 4 years at Oklahoma. Jack Nelson, 4 years at Wisconsin with a redshirted first year. What does that tell us? These are players who earned real reps early. They weren't carried by eligibility extensions or inflated resumes. This is the rare draft class that's young, experienced, and still scratching the surface of what they can become. A core trio you can build around the best drafts don't just add depth, they add pillars. Atlanta may have done just that with their first 3 picks. You look at Jalen Walker, James Pierce, and Xavier Watts, and those look like day one starters. Not projects, not placeholders, starters. That's what you want at the top of your draft board. That's what good front offices do. They don't get cute, they get foundational. And Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris deserve full credit for trusting their evaluations and nailing the most critical selections. A draft class built for the now and the next 5 years. This new snaps per player metric doesn't just validate the Falcons' approach, it crystallizes it. It gives fans something tangible to point to, something they can rally around. It tells us that this wasn't a draft filled with guesswork or gambles. It was focused, football smart, and future ready. And if the early signs hold true, we might just be looking back on this as one of the smartest 5-player draft classes in Atlanta Falcons history. Let's call it what it is. Atlanta is on the clock. Not the draft clock. The win now clock. With Michael Penix Jr. entering year 2 of a 5-year rookie deal, Bijan Robinson and Drake London still on theirs, and a wide-open NFC South staring the Falcons in the face, this isn't the time to slow play anything. This isn't a roster built to patiently develop rookies for the long haul. This is a team staring down its moment. A team that finished 9-8 last season, but walked away feeling like they'd left meat on the bone. Missed chances, squandered drives, winnable games that slipped through their fingers. So when you look at this five-man draft class and then realize it's the 13th most experienced class in the league by average college snaps, it's more than a nice stat. It's a signal. These aren't long-term projects. They're ready to go now. An optimist's view. With reason now, I'll admit, it's easy to look at a data point like average snaps per player and treat it like it's the gospel. But when that number fits the story we're seeing in Atlanta, when it lines up with the urgency of the moment, I'll take that glass of Kool-Aid. Hell, I'll pour a second round. Sure, there's some bias. Sure, some of this is gut feeling. But we're not talking about a fantasy. We're talking about a franchise that might have landed 3 cornerstone players with their first 3 picks, all without needing double-digit selections or splashy trades. It's not blind faith, it's football logic, a class that belongs in the Falcons' top 5. Now here's where the bold claim comes in, and I'm ready to take the heat for it. This might be Atlanta's best draft class since 2001. Let that marinate. No, I'm not ready to grade the 2024 class just yet. That hinges on what Michael Penix Jr. becomes, and that story is still unfolding. But stack this 2025 group up against the last 2 decades, and it holds weight. When I started thinking through Atlanta's 5 best draft classes since 2000, I was looking for a few things. Balance. Not just one superstar, but multiple long-term contributors. Longevity. Guys who stick. 7, 8, 9 years in the same uniform. Support cast. Strength. The Matt Ryan draft, 2008, gave Atlanta a franchise quarterback, but little else. In contrast, Michael Vick's 2001 class brought in Alge Crumpler, Roberto Garza, and others who held it down for years. That's the bar. Not just one hit, but a supporting cast that actually supports. This 2025 group: Jalen Walker, James Pierce, Xavier Watts. I don't think it's crazy to believe all 3 could play 7 to 9 years in Atlanta, and not because they're just hanging on, but because they belong. That kind of consistency has been rare in recent Falcons draft history. You don't find that level of durability and contribution often, especially not from 3 out of 5 picks. If that pans out, if this group becomes what it looks like it can, this draft might not just crack the top 5. It could be the best. And about that 2001 class, look, I'm still giving 2001 the edge, for now. Vick changed everything. And yes, we all know how it ended, but when you grade a draft class, you grade what it gave you on the field. What happened later, the suspensions, the headlines, doesn't erase what that class meant in the moment. And no, there weren't major red flags on Vick coming out of Virginia Tech. Hindsight is 20/20, and it's easy to fault teams for things they couldn't fully see coming. But as a pure draft class, 2001 still deserves the crown. For now. We've spent plenty of time unpacking the big names in Atlanta's 2025 draft class. Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr., Jaden Bowman. Rightfully so. But if this class is going to live up to the lofty expectations we've placed on it, it won't just be because of the headliners. It'll be because of the contributions from players deeper down the list. It's time we talk about Xavier Watts and Jack Nelson, 2 rookies who could quietly become pillars in Atlanta's long-term structure. Xavier Watts. The natural Watts didn't generate the same pre-draft hype as other safeties, and that's understandable. He doesn't jump off the screen with elite measurables. But here's what you can't teach: instincts, leadership, and timing. Watts spent 5 years at Notre Dame, though he only played in 2 games during his freshman season before redshirting. So let's call it 4 real years, with the last 2 as a full-time starter. And in those 2 seasons, he didn't just show up, he took over. 2-time All-American, winner of the Bronco Nagurski Award given to the best defensive player in the country. Team captain, leader of one of the most respected defenses in college football, and yet he wasn't drafted for his athletic ceiling. He was drafted because he plays like a pro already. He diagnoses plays early. He closes with discipline. He's the kind of safety who's always in the right place, especially when the game speeds up. Right now, the expectation is that veteran Jordan Fuller starts next to Jesse Bates, thanks to his familiarity with Raheem Morris's defense and years of experience in Los Angeles. But don't be surprised if Watts is starting by week 1, or at worst by October. He's the type of player who will force coaches to take notice. And if Bates is Atlanta's present, Watts could very well be their future at safety. Pairing them together now could give Atlanta a dynamic blend of veteran savvy and youthful anticipation. With Bates approaching the back end of his prime, the timing couldn't be better. Jack Nelson, the giant nobody's talking about. If there's a mystery man in this class, it's Jack Nelson, the Falcons' 7th-round pick out of Wisconsin. You want to talk size? Let's talk size. Nelson is 6 feet 7 inches, 318 pounds, and those aren't exaggerated pro day numbers, that's real. Functional mass. He's not just big, he's rare. That frame places him in the first percentile of size for offensive linemen, even in a league filled with giants. He was a 4-star recruit who stayed home to play for the Badgers and carved out a strong college career, even if it wasn't flawless. His hand placement can be inconsistent. His ability to mirror edge rushers needs refinement. And yes, the penalties piled up at times, the kind of drive killers that get offensive linemen buried on the depth chart in the pros. But let's not forget, this is a 7th-round pick with first-round measurables. There's developmental upside here, and the Falcons clearly saw it. Nelson may not start right away. He may need a year in the weight room and another in the film room, but with the right coaching, he's the kind of late-round swing that pays off down the road, either as a reliable swing tackle or possibly more. Watts and Nelson are very different prospects. One is a polished, high IQ defender who could start from day one. The other is a massive, unrefined blocker with tools too rare to ignore. But both are examples of why this 5-man class might over-deliver, not because of 1 or 2 stars, but because every piece matters. Let me know when you're ready for the next section. We'll keep threading this narrative through a thoughtful, visual, and emotionally grounded lens. Falcons football through Peter King's eyes. There's a plan quietly forming on Atlanta's offensive line, one that could determine how successful the Michael Penix Jr. era becomes, and it revolves around an unassuming 7th-rounder and a veteran right tackle who may not be the best fit anymore. Jack Nelson, the mountain-sized rookie from Wisconsin, is more than just a depth piece. He could be the long-term answer at right tackle. Let's unpack why. First off, Nelson brings versatility and experience. Across his college career, he started 37 games at left tackle and another 13 at right guard. But when asked where he feels most comfortable, his answer was right tackle, and that's exactly what Raheem Morris and this offensive staff want to hear. Because here's the reality. Kaleb McGary is entering the final year of the 3-year deal he signed back in 2023. And while McGary has been a capable run blocker, his limitations in pass protection have always lingered. For a team now investing heavily in a left-handed quarterback, that's a concern. With a southpaw like Penix Jr., the right tackle is protecting his blind side, a premium position in this offense. And McGary, good as he's been in the run game, just hasn't consistently held up in pass sets the way you'd want for that responsibility. Flipping Jake Matthews to right tackle might seem like a quick fix, but that's easier said than done. The 32-year-old has spent a decade cemented at left tackle, both in Atlanta and going back to his Texas A&M days. At this point in his career, asking him to relearn footwork and protection angles on the opposite side could do more harm than good. So instead, Atlanta's approach is measured. Let McGary finish out the season, give Nelson a year to develop in practice, and evaluate from there. Everything from his stance to his handwork will need to shift in making the full-time move to the right side, but at 6 feet 7 inches, 318 pounds, the physical tools are already there. It's not about rushing him into the starting lineup. It's about laying the groundwork now, so a year from now, the Falcons aren't scrambling for solutions if McGary walks in free agency. If Nelson progresses even incrementally, Atlanta enters next offseason not with desperation but options. That's how good teams stay ahead of roster turnover. They anticipate needs before they become problems. On draft value and future stars. It's tempting to get caught up in star power. Jalen Walker will probably be the best player from this class. But if you zoom out and look at pure value, there's a case to be made that Xavier Watts is Atlanta's most impressive pick. A multi-year college starter, an award-winning leader, and a safety with immediate starter potential, all from a trade-up late on day 2. This Falcons class may only be 5 players deep, but if 3 of them become reliable long-term contributors, and one of them fills the all-important right tackle role in front of Penix Jr., this group won't just be remembered as one of the better classes in recent memory. It might be remembered as the one that helped turn the tide.